I am the only person who is now capable of logically analyzing whether directed energy weapons are being used to cause wildfires. Many debunkers will pose a question like, why would the government even do something like that? Well, listen to Dr. William Luther Pierce. Listen to Renegade Broadcasting. You'll know who controls the government. You will learn their nefarious goals. And you will learn the history of crimes against humanity going centuries back. Is there a tribal conspiracy against the white race? Absolutely. It is easily proven, and it has come out of the horse's mouth many times. Is there a New World Order conspiracy with the goal of a single world government controlled by the tribe's elites? Of course. Many times this has come out of their own mouths, and if you look at all their agendas, like the UN Agenda 2030, you can clearly see where things are going. The signs of white genocide and enslavement of humanity are all around you, and in certain places like South Africa, the white genocide agenda has been clearly fulfilled. So there is no question the world is under attack. And if the real rulers of the world, not the puppet presidents, but the real rulers, had access to the technology of weather control and directed energy weapons, would they use them against humanity? Absolutely. There is no limit to their ruthlessness, as history has shown. So there are three questions that come to mind. Do they have such a weapons? If they do not have such a weapons, are they trying to simply make us believe they do? And would they lie to us about the true capability of those weapons if they do have them? The question ultimately being, how much are they telling us or not telling us? And these are questions that can't be answered definitively. However, we can extrapolate certain things based on existing evidence that is easily provable, where instead of focusing on the enemy's weapons, we focus on the nature of the enemy itself. The tribe are magicians, and they are mentalists. Their most powerful achievement was to get people to believe in their bullshit Abrahamic religions for over 2,000 years. And that achievement is far more monumental than getting away with pulling off the inside job of 9/11. One could go forever into showing examples of the games they play with the minds of the Goyim. They have installed hundreds of news outlets and personalities out there, all clamoring to get you to believe in one thing or another, many acting as controlled opposition. But what they all have in common is keeping the tribe off your radar as they attempt to parse as to why the world is going to shit. Just like a magic trick, where the magician directs you to look at his right hand so you miss what his left hand is doing. Examine the video footage of Cold War nuclear explosions, whether the Russian videos or the American videos of nuclear tests. It doesn't matter. That shit looks clearly fake, where if you saw this stuff in a movie now, you'd realize you were looking at outdated special effects that were cutting edge for their time, but are now very outdated. Yet people still believe they are seeing a real thing, because they've been conditioned to believe they are seeing a real thing. This is a great example of the tribe projecting a sense that they possessed destructive technology that they wanted you to believe at the time they have, but probably did not have. So they faked it, just like they faked the moon landing. Who knows if they actually developed working nuclear weapons now? I want to believe they did, because nuclear weapons are badass and fun to use in fiction if you are a fiction writer, but they most likely did not have them back in the 40s or the 50s. As far as Hiroshima and Nagasaki nuclear bombs are concerned, there is evidence that they actually carpet firebombed the cities with 66 airplanes and claimed that a nuclear explosion had gone off. And maybe those bombs they dropped during the firebombing, maybe they were dirty bombs. Who knows? But I am digressing. The point is to give examples of how the tribe that controls our world act as magicians and mentalists, and how there's plenty of evidence for that. So I actually deduced a compromise solution to the question of whether the wildfires are weaponized or they're just nature doing its thing. And I would say that it can very well be half of both. The government is able to track the weather in real time, and all the meteorological factors, especially the wind. If there is a powerful wind headed to a certain area, they know, because this wind takes time to travel from one place to another. And if they have sufficient enough AI software that can take all the meteorological factors, such as humidity, wind speed, temperature, the conditions of the forest, such as the amount of documented dead trees and such, they can calculate precisely where to drop the match in order to have the most devastating effect possible. Think about controlled demolitions of buildings. You can detonate a huge bomb in the wrong place, and the building will still stand, or most of it will still stand. Or you can detonate small charges in all the right places and turn the building to absolute rubble. Same concept would apply to starting wildfires in order to achieve the maximum destructive effect. And just like a building demolition, you can computer model the optimum times for starting a wildfire with a maximum destructive power. But it's tricky, because it's a science. Drop the match in the wrong place at the wrong time, and your fire fizzles out. Or you get a fire that's easy to put out. So they have to wait for and calculate the most optimal conditions where they can drop the match at the right time and the right place to get the most out of the resultant wildfire. So can we say that the wildfires are government created in order to fulfill the nefarious agenda of the tribe? Absolutely, it is very plausible. But is it being done by way of some kind of a sci-fi laser drone? I'm not saying it can't be, but I'm also saying it doesn't have to be. But getting to the magician aspect of the enemy, if they can make you believe that they have the laser technology, that they can fry anyone they want at any time from the sky, then this psychological fear factor, just like with the phony threat of nuclear war, plays perfectly into their agenda. Don't dare stand up to us. We can just push a button and turn you into dust at any time. You see, they want you to have this feeling of hopelessness, that you have already lost. So if they can get you to believe in directed energy weapons technology, while using a much more mundane method, then all the better for them. That's how magicians work. Using mundane methods to make you believe something supernatural or out of this world uncanny is happening. And if they can put agents on the internet who will pump up these ideas like, oh yes, they have directed energy weapons, they can control the weather, they have everything where they can zap you like a bug anytime they wish, then of course they will do it, because it reinforces the belief that the magic trick is for real. And here's the flaw with a lot of conspiracy nuts and their debunkers. The conspiracy nuts often do not know about the tribal factor, because they listen to the enemy's disinformation agents like Alex Jones. The debunkers often do not know of the tribal factor either. Both are not aware that the enemy must be viewed as an illusionist, as a magician, as a mentalist, and that's the biggest flaw in the logic of both the debunkers and the conspiracy nuts. the debunkers will say that California is already prone to wildfires, and the East Coast is already prone to being hit by hurricanes, and these are natural things that the government doesn't need to generate with some kind of a sci-fi technology. Yes, that's true, but if you want to use nature against people, if you want to weaponize nature, the most logical thing to do is to take hazards that already exist in nature in certain places that are particular to certain places, and then amplify them. For example, if a place is prone to wildfires, then you just need to make those wildfires worse, or to use them to maximum effectiveness. And you don't need sci-fi laser technology for that. You just need mundane methods used in the most logistical manner possible. You could, for example, spray toxins over the forest over a long period of time and cause a large die-off of trees. So now you have tons of dead, dry trees ready to burn. Then, via meteorological instrumentation, you keep a close eye on the weather conditions and have the forest fire modeling software calculate the optimum time and place for dropping a lit match. And then you have your agents ready to act at a moment's notice to do so. What are the odds that a car will have a flat tire precisely at the right spot where the wheel rim will scrape the road in such a way that a spark or two will ignite the dry grass, and it will all perfectly work in conjunction with the wind and everything else to create a tremendous superfire? One question I always asked myself is, how do these fires, often dozens of them, seem to start up simultaneously, precisely during the conditions when they can create the most destruction? Well, here's how. I just answered it. They are indeed engineered. But in the same way that you'd select the best logistical conditions for launching the space shuttle, or the best conditions for hauling in the biggest fish catch, a laser is probably tricky to use. For example, somehow you got to make it so the tremendous clouds of smoke aren't blocking your laser as you sweep it along the fire front line. It's much more difficult to engineer a directed energy weapon attack than simply waiting for the right time and place to strike with a lit match. And regardless of how these fires are started, they still contribute to the UN agendas of displacing people out of rural communities into the cities and stack-and-pack apartment buildings. If you have read books like the Gideon Crew series, dumb as they may be, they give you an insight into social engineering and physics engineering in general, or an insight into the mindset of a social engineer or a physics engineer. See, a magician, for example, doesn't have to engineer a way to literally catch a fired bullet in his teeth. A magician only has to engineer a way to make you believe that he did. I will also talk about chemtrails eventually, and how those who believe in them get shit wrong, and how the debunkers also get shit wrong.